Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Video Games, back with another cool arcade game. You can see all of our games at lionsarcade.com. Today we've got the queen of the arcade, Miss Pac-Man. We like to film videos of these really cool games, and I believe everybody would agree that Miss Pac-Man's a pretty cool game. So we got in a pretty decent original one, and we figured we'd do a little video of it. If you don't own one, maybe you'd want to see what they look like after they've been around for 35 years, so 34 years. Here's a cool one. Just shoot a little video of the cabinet and what's going on with it. We got this in broke, and it was still pretty much working. It had some problem with the fuse holder, like a lot of them do. But cosmetically, it's actually in pretty decent shape. We touched it up a little bit, made it look a little better. The story I heard was that the original Pac-Man, women really loved it. It was a really cool game, of course, and it was played by a lot of ladies in the arcades and bowling alleys and stuff like that. And so Midway, realizing that the female population was playing it maybe even more than the male population was, which was rare back then, decided that the sequel that they kind of bought the rights for, that's a whole other story, but the sequel they would call Miss Pac-Man, kind of in honor of all of the lady gamers that played it out on location. Cabinet's slightly different than the original Pac-Man, and the levels changed. The original one, you only had, you just played the same level over and over and over again. Things got faster, but on this one, the actual maze would change as you went along. So this is a cool one. This is one of the original ones that came out in '81. These have a painted side. I'll kind of try to show it a little bit. It's been touched up a little bit. You can see how the wear is only on the front of the game. See how that yellow and the pink wears away at the front? You can see it a little bit down here too. The blue's been touched up. Some of that was worn down to the wood, actually. The reason that it's like that is because whenever people would play it back in the day, they would put their hand on the joystick if they were left-handed, and they'd put their right hand up on the side of the cabinet while they played. And after they did that long enough, it would actually start wearing the paint away. So the right side always has a little bit of wear, and the left side has even more wear because most people are left-handed. So, most people are right-handed, so most of the people that played it would rest their left hand on the side. So, but we've touched up the blue a little bit, which really made it look a lot better. It's got a little wear. You can make them perfect again if you want, but it takes a while to hand paint all that. So we usually just leave it good enough. The pink is a little faded. This one, actually, the pink looks a little purplish, and the marquee's kind of the same. The pink's faded, kind of purplish. A lot of times that pink will completely fade away, and that will just be white. So everywhere it's pink will just be white. And it just had something to do with the pink ink that they chose back then. So the front actually still looks pretty good. All these games took a lot of abuse out on location. Check this one out. Look at this little thing here. Look at that. There's only one way that could have possibly happened. Somebody has hit this glorious machine with a hammer. I don't know why. I guess maybe they were, I don't know. The coin door wasn't that beat up, so they didn't, I'm sure they pried into that too, but almost every coin door from back in the day, especially these ones that are, 34 years old, is all bent up and everything. You can see the bottom's bent a little bit. See that? There's a couple more hammer marks. So somebody at one time wanted to get their payday out of that thing. And by the way, what I'm suggesting is that's not an operator that did that. That's probably, it was out on location and somebody tried to break into it with either a hammer or a screwdriver. I don't know if the hammer marks were them trying to break into it, but the coin doors were always pried open by screwdrivers and stuff, so to get to the quarters. But all of these games are going to have a little bit of that stuff. Depending on your point of view, it kind of adds a little character to them. Some people Kind of think that's pretty cool, actually. So this is the original control panel overlay. As you can see, it's actually, there's the copyright info. 1981, Midway Manufacturing Company, all rights reserved. That's the original overlay, and it's actually in really nice shape. There's a little bit of wear here and there, but it cleaned up pretty good. Original leaf switch buttons on it. Some of these, another little idiosyncrasy. Some of these, see the little sleeve underneath the ball? How it's red. Some of those are red, some of them are black. It's kind of, I don't know if all the Miss Pac-Man ones were red or if it's just hit and miss, but set on free play right now. That's what it looks like when we're free play. The bezel's still in pretty good shape. We're just trying to document some of these that we get in and have a video of at least all of the really cool ones that we get in up on YouTube, just so that you can kind of review them if you're into this type of thing. By the time you see this video, this actual machine may already be sold, but maybe we'll have another one in or something else that you're interested in. Just thought it would be cool to show an original Miss Pac-Man still doing its thing. And again, it's kind of rare to get the ones that still have the pink like that hasn't faded. They made a second run of these. This was such a popular game that after this came out, they sold tons and tons and tons. A couple years later, they actually reran it again, and the way you can tell if it's one of those cabinets is it will have stickers on the side. It won't be painted. It'll actually be a big side art sticker, similar to something like Centipede. It looks exactly the same, but it's just it's a sticker instead of painted. All right, and I've left the back door off so I can show you a little bit of what the inside looks like. We'll go around to the back. That's the monitor. You can see the original paint overspray from when they painted it in the factory. Some of the wiring running down. Of course, that's something we ought to heed. Caution, high voltage. We rebuilt that monitor, of course. There's the game board on the side. Originally, see that little metal tray over there? There would have been a daughter board with a ribbon cable on it. That was part of the Miss Pac-Man setup. At some point, this has a Brady Distributors sticker on it. So at some point, this game was at Brady Distributing in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I don't know if they updated it then or if they swapped the game board out because they were having issues or something. But see how there's 6 chips in a row there on that main part? That was like a little mod you could do to make it play without that daughter board. And somebody's done it to it to remove that part of it. What I always liked about these Pac-Man cabinets is the simple power supply. If you look at that, you've got the line comes in, and then it runs through this line filter over here, which is this. This game's on, so I'm trying not to kill myself. It's the line filter. And then below it, right here, see those 2 shiny things, is 2 fuses. That's 1 fuse for the monitor, 1 fuse for the line coming in. And then the power goes over to this big transformer here. It also daisy chains over to the smaller transformer. The smaller transformer is an isolation transformer, which runs the monitor. And basically it just changes the 120 to an isolated 120 so that the monitor can run. It just has to do with the way the chassis ground works on the older monitors like that. But this transformer here makes 4 voltages. 120 comes in. The windings in the transformer make 4 voltages, which run over here to these 4 fuses. If you've got one of these and it's not working right, check those fuses, not just that they work, but check that they're being held tightly by the fuse holders. What happens is those fuse holders lose their spring over the years, and they get to the point where they're not making good contact with the fuses, so the voltage won't get through the fuse holder and out these wires on the other side. And then the voltage comes up and into the top of the board. Probably can't see that, it's a little dark. Basically the voltage comes in the top of the board over there where that harness is, And then this little section right here on the edge of the board, those two big caps, that little transistor on the heatsink, this diode up here, this resistor up here, and that little transistor right there with the funny one with the 4 legs. All of that changes the AC voltage that's coming off of the transformer into 5 volts to run all the chips on the board. So it's a real simple setup, and the cool thing about all that is that because of its nature, if you have a Miss Pac-Man, the power supply itself hardly ever needs to be replaced because the transformer doesn't go bad. So sometimes you'll have a problem with the fuse holder, and you can completely replace that. And then sometimes, every once in a while, you'll have a problem over here in the corner of the game board, the regulator, the voltage regulator that makes it the 5 volts, but not often. So it's just a real reliable setup. Whenever we first started doing this, we used to think, oh man, the power supply is probably bad. We need to put a switching power supply in it, but that hardly ever fixes it. It's just a waste of time, a waste of money usually. So, but there you go. We just figured we'd film a little video of Miss Pac-Man, and if you're wondering, yes, it does work. See how fast she's going? That's because it has the speed chip, of course. Little thing about the speed chip, it made her move faster, and everybody thinks that was to make it more fun for the players. No, that was because almost anybody, after they played it for a little while, could play for a long time, because just about anybody can probably get to the 6th or the 7th board before you lose your men or your women, your Miss Pac-Mans. So what the operators did was they came up with this idea to make it faster, so that you would die. You would get farther along quicker, so that you would die quicker, because if you sat there and played it all day, they'd only make 1/4 off of you. But if you died after, if they could get it to where you died after 5 minutes instead of dying after 10 minutes, then that was more opportunity for them to make more quarters. So it was actually a hack to help the operators make more money, but it does make it more fun, most people feel. It's hard to talk, videotape, and play at the same time. But, oh, you got me on the tunnel. So anyway, that's a Wells Garner K4900 monitor in it, and it still looks pretty good. It has burn in it if you look real close. See that little Pac-Man burnt into the image there? That's because over the years the picture has been moved and made bigger and smaller through the adjustments, and since it shows the same thing over and over and over and over again, it actually burns the phosphor on the back of the glass tube to where you can see the image at all times. So the little Miss Pac-Man, you can see other things too if you look close, but the little Miss Pac-Man, while it's just sitting here running through a track mode, it shows that over and over and over again, because she starts at the beginning of the game right there. It maybe we'll let it die and see if it's from the free play. Whoop, went right through them. All right, let's see here. Yeah. See how she's sitting right where that burn-in was? That's because this game has been on free play for so long and turned on for so long that that's actually burnt the screen right there. Crazy. You can also see the M logo on that screen whenever we were looking at the burn-in. All of these do that though. They won't necessarily do it that same exact place, but the maze will get burnt into it. It's just something that back then they didn't know as much about, so a lot of the games got a lot of burn-in. This has a tinted bezel, so it's not as noticeable when you're playing it. So no big deal. If you want one perfect, you can put a new monitor in it, but this one looks bright. We left it alone. So there it is, folks. Miss Pac-Man. Like I said, we get in broke games, we fix them up. You can see all of our games at lionsarcade.com, or stop by and see us. We're in downtown Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is about 15 minutes south of Charlotte, North Carolina. And we've got a showroom here with a bunch of games in it. just to give you a quick idea of that's what one looks like now. We'll walk over here. We've got another one in that's a lot more rough. We just got this one in and haven't fixed it yet, but you can see how the pink is much more faded on this one. We haven't touched up any of the blue yet. You can see how the art down there on the front is a little more rough. Hasn't been attacked by a hammer though, so that's good. You can see how the overlay is pretty ripped up. This one has the black sleeve underneath the ball that I was talking about. And then look at this poor bezel. All of the paint is silk screened on the bezel. It's just completely falling off. So that bezel's destroyed. If it's got a little bit of flaking, you can clear coat the back of it and save it, repaint some of it. But not that one. It's got a lot of dust on it, but I'll back out and you can see the burn in. Look at that. The only way to get that is to play the same game over and over and over again for years. So if it gets real bad, the burn-in really bothers people, but I kind of see it as a character thing, unless it's too rough, you know. It just kind of adds to it because it means that a lot of people played it. So there we go. All right, guys, we'll see you next video. Hope you enjoyed it. Long live Miss Pac-Man.